And we're back on on the record with Tiffany and Kevin on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. See, I put you first, right?
Yes, you always do, Mr. Smith.
So since we're asking questions, I got one for Kev.
Yep.
Now, would you consider yourself, the organization like something like an advocacy for people that have kidney problems? That you advocate for them when they don't know how to do it for themselves.
Yeah, that is a big thing that we do, and I take that personally.
And the reason why, like when we first got into this, one of the first things we saw was that most of the advocates, and not just in kidney, but across the board, most advocates have worked for or currently work for industry in some way. They work for diagnostics, or they work for a research institute, or they work for dialysis, or some form of industry. They're a dedicated professional in that part of the industry.
But they're not advocating from a patient-centered view.
It's not that they're not sincere advocates. What I'm saying is that just based on, I like to study. So systems theory. Systems theory teaches you that anybody that is a part of a system, no matter how neutral you think you are,
you're not.
You are being, the longer you are within that system, you're becoming indoctrinated or having certain things ingrained in you just because of the system.
And the system says...
It's just the way that it is. You're around something all day, every day.
But the
you'll
system
start to go
says,
along
Tiffany,
with
that it's the patient's problem. It's the patient's fault. If you just did what we told you to do, you'd be fine.
Right. And that's the narrative.
That's
when
the
the
narrative
reality is...
They don't know.
The first way... Well, here's the reality of what's happening in kidney disease. Because this one thing could change the numbers, impact the numbers in a 5-year period. Kidney disease is detected in its early stages, but it is not reported to the patient until stage 3B, after you've been at 3B for 3 months. If in stages 1 and 2, when kidney disease was detected, if the practitioner simply walk the patient through, you have the beginning stages of kidney disease. One, we have therapeutics right now that, when are they the most effective? Beginning stages of kidney disease. They can actually help you reverse kidney disease if you get them in the beginning stages of kidney disease.
Or definitely slow it down.
Yes, they can. We have therapeutics that can slow it down. We have mixtures of they're talking about it all over the place. SGLT2 inhibitors. Those are the ones that are having such a great impact in over a third of the kidney disease patients, and having a positive impact on cardiovascular. But if we simply, this is the only disease where you can see it, a practitioner could see it and not say a word to the patient. And that's what's happening often. Not always, but often. And that's a travesty, because you have a window of time. And let's be clear on this. Kidney disease takes a while to move from stages 1 to 3B, depending on what form it is.
But for people in high-risk groups, right, and that high-risk group is if you are high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, right? Genetic causes, if you happen to be black or brown. And I think that's more a proxy for economics, right? You're in a high risk, and if you're 65 or older, if you have one or more of those 6 things, right, you're in a high risk group. And
your family history.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the high risk is really diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and obesity. That's the 4 things you need to look at. Your race is not as important as those 4 things. Now,
but I disagree with that, Tiffany.
But certain with genetics, when we talk about genetics, the reason why we were looking at APOL1 is that APOL1 moves at twice the rate of other forms of kidney disease.
Yeah.
So it does move pretty quickly.
Now, I say race because race is a proxy for me for people who have sub-Saharan African descent.
Yeah,
because
that's
that
what
group of people
APOL1 is.
They have that, and if they are aware that that's what's going on in my body, in their bodies, and they can use that heat map, and when we talk about the heat map, it actually has suggested, recommended treatments in each of those different boxes on the heat map, and people can get that, right? And so when you say I'm an advocate, yes, I believe in advocating for patients. So especially around kidney disease. But my new passionate thing, which we have coming up here, is transplantation. For me, the system will grinds people down, and it puts up more barriers, more soft barriers, preventing people from, one, getting on a waiting list, right? On the waiting list. Two, understanding the list, right? Understanding, like with kidney transplants, right? Like what's what in that whole realm. And I think I went back and I read the article again that Nate Robinson, ESPN did with Nate Robinson, I think I pronounced it right.
Yep,
Robinson. And I was just reading through there, through the whole thing, and I'm reading it from a view of an insider. I was thinking, okay, and I want to ask him all these questions, like, okay, who did you talk to here? What did they tell you? At all these different levels, there should have been people telling him at each step of the process, here's what's going on. So, but they don't tell you that information, but then they hold you responsible for the information, that you should know the information, which drives me crazy.
That's what I'm trying to get to, which is that this disease is bifurcated, and part of what you are talking about with Nate Robinson is that you're saying they, but it's different doctors that Nate is dealing with. It's not a one they. It's is one. He's got a primary care physician. That primary care physician isn't necessarily talking to the dialysis doctors, and they weren't. That was one of the first things that I noticed with patients in general, not just Nate, because what's happening with Nate is so typical of what happens across the country. Yeah. And what's so important about Nate is, one, Nate just gets into your heart. He's just a really sweet person. I'm sure he doesn't want to hear that because he's a tough guy that jumps over people. But what got to me with Nate is that I was talking to 3 other kids, the same, younger than Nate, going through the same thing. Is how what a Superman he is, but also a regular guy, just a regular guy going through this system that is so ambiguous. Even the insulation of money and status didn't do anything for him in terms of getting him what he needed. Yeah,
and you see that though. You see that there's a couple state representatives here in Texas, right? And they had transplant. They got transplants, right? Had them for a while, and I was sitting there listening to the story, and I was thinking, even with these guys, they didn't get the best that they could have gotten, right? Which is through the exchange. That's the best match you can get.
One of the state representatives, he's a senator, Senator Kelly Hancock. I remember listening to him tell his story, and he has IgA nephropathy.
That's difficult, yeah.
And it's one of those that it is a genetic kidney disease, and it's diagnosed. Usually, it can be diagnosed at birth, but usually people figure it out somewhere in their 20s or 30s. You know, they'll figure out, I have IgA nephropathy. Well, something's wrong, and then they'll test them, and that's what it is. So when he had a doctor tell him, hey, you have this, you're going to be on dialysis. You'll probably be on dialysis in the next year or two. Gave him a short time frame for dialysis, and he said he fired his whole care team.
Should have.
because he wasn't getting any information. Nobody was. He didn't feel like they were right, and he actually fought it off for over 20 years.
Yeah, with his diet, adjusting that with medication and those types of things, you can do that.
And then when his kidneys did, finally fail, when he went into renal failure, he started down the process of transplantation and got a transplant.
Mm-hmm. But even that could have been a smoother process through paired exchange. And so there's a lot of these things you don't know, like paired exchange. The
National Kidney Registry. Like every time we have this discussion about the National Kidney Registry and that was one of the...
And that just gets me annoyed. I get really passionate and hot about that because there's this tool. We're talking about people's lives, right? Mm-hmm. You only get one. You don't get to come back. That I know of. You people believe that. That's all. You can believe that. But my information is you only get this one try. And even if you could come back, I don't want to roll the dice. What if I come back as a bug? Don't want to do it. All right? So you get this one life. And so for me, life is precious. So
you'd probably be a dung beetle or something.
Why wouldn't you want to give every single person the most optimal outcome that they could get, right? So they'll tell you got to have a match. Well, if it were me and my kidneys fail right now, right, what I would do is I say, okay, I got a person who wants to give me a kidney. They're a match, but I want to go through the National Kidney Registry or some type of registry to get an optimal match.
Yep.
Right? Because I want the optimal because I only get one shot and this person has made this sacrifice to give me their kidney. So I want to make sure we're matching. It's the best possible match I could get. Right? And so you would think that thing would go through and they would establish that and work it out. But even now, they're dragging their feet. They're still got to do a study. And I'm like, no. You already got a group of people who've already done this. They're doing it right now.
Right. So that was part of us creating knowledge to action, is that there was there's an people are overwhelmed with all of these pieces of information, and some of them are good and some of them aren't. So how do they decide? So we were like, okay, let's pull together a team of experts, and let's have the experts go through and show us what the optimum options are. Mm-hmm. What are they? What are the best options? Mm-hmm. And then let's present those. Let's focus our attention around building programs, taking this translational research and putting it into action.
Well, we already know what the best is. So the best is to prevent people from getting from losing kidney function, right? And in those high risk groups, you want to start treating them in stages 1 and 2. I mean, that's settled research, right?
Right. So that's what we did. We got the experts to tell us what the best options were,
and that's what we're bringing to the community.
And that's what we built our programs around and doing. So we don't talk about all the other registries. We talk about the best one, the National Kidney Registry, because it has the broadest
database,
and it gives you the best options.
And newsflash, if you currently say, well, I'm on a waiting list at my transplant center, right? I bet you they're using their internal database if you do an exchange and not the National Kidney Registry database. Ask them that, because I can guarantee you, if you've been on that waiting list at a place and you're doing a kidney exchange, right? Unless you have some really rare situation going on, right? You are probably being on an internal database. Guaranteed.
Well.
Sorry, Tiffany, you got me started.
You can be on both.
Yeah.
You're not limited to only their internal database.
And you can be on multiple. You can be registered at multiple transplant centers too. That's something else they don't tell you.
And you want to register in different regions. There are optimal ways to do things to get yourself the best chances. And so that was really what we put our energy and resources in, is making sure that people understood what their best options were. And we're starting to see that pay off, with things like at-home test kits coupled with telemedicine. That opens up access to care in places that didn't have it. In rural counties, because we had 42 counties in Texas that do not have primary care
They
physicians.
got dialysis centers.
Yes, many of them.
But also, Tiffany,
So we spent our time and energy on making sure that we could take this translational research and create models that could be duplicated.
yeah.
And that could bring success to people in the community.
Okay, for every program we have 6 of them, right? We have 6 programs. I've read a good 30, 40 research papers attached to every single one of them, and we've basically culled it down to like 3, 4 studies that undergird what we do, right? So since we're talking about this, these are just facts, right? So on our screenings are based on 4 top-notch papers on doing early detection in the community, and then there's one gentleman. I don't know if they did a paper out of this. If Dr. Richard Gibney did a paper, I know he passed away, but his research on upstream treatment of kidney disease, of the early stages of kidney disease with SGLT2 inhibitors is excellent research. I think he got some of that from those guys over in Sweden. Is it Sweden? I don't know.
Yeah,
public school.
it was
in Sweden.
Yes, public school. It was Sweden.
In Sweden, right? But that research is top-notch research. So we've taken that and all the ideas in those papers, right? And then my understanding and practice of customer service, and we've applied that. So that's why, like with genetic testing, if we wanted to just blow the numbers out, we could have did 80 people on genetic testing, but we did about 30 people. So one, we get the process down.
Yeah, it was
we
the
understand
workflow.
it, and they understand the workflow.
We were working through
so that we provide good service, right? So the second thing that's a big
the workflow and the messaging, making sure that the on-site messaging
is right.
was appropriate for the community that we're serving, because every community is different. Just like precision medicine should be applied to the individual, then one can step back just a bit and apply a precision medicine lens to communities.
Yeah.
So every community is different. Every little slice of the community is different. So whenever we go into a new space, and by new space I mean like a new hub, and that was a new hub for us, then we check out, okay, what are the people like that are coming in? Who are we attracting in this particular space? And how do they want to be treated as a community, approached? What do they need? What are the needs for this group?
All that's a long, fancy way of saying don't be a jerk, right?
Yeah.
Just go into people's communities, being nice and a learner.
Because the goal is to be consistent. It's not to have 1,500 people show up to one event. The goal is to be consistently there, so that when that bad moment comes, maybe this family is doing just fine when you see them in 2024, but when we see them in 2026, something's going on.
But also the thing is, Tiffany,
and they know that they can come to this place because we're going to be there. That's what the goal is there. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, to me, you guys sound like some quarterbacks, you know what I'm saying? It's the whole organization like quarterbacks. You throwing passes out there, all people got to do is just catch it.
Yeah.
It's like every aspect of the kidney disease, from, first being diagnosed to transplants, to eating plants, to preventing transplants. You guys got it all. It's like, it's like a quarterback. You just sit back and just give people the information that they need, the solutions that they need, and the assistance that they need. It's simple.
Yeah.
You guys is a one-stop shop like Walmart.
The Walmart of kidney disease.
I wouldn't
say it is.
but I try to be extremely focused from the patient's perspective, and I want to treat it as if it was my my nephews, right, or my mother or my daughters, right. I want to give them the information in a way that they understand. And that's what we spent the last probably last 12 to 18 months perfecting that. And so we have a process, right, that when we educate people at our screenings, we're actually educating them. And so right now we're duplicating that by training more people to carry forth this process. And for us, it's not the money. Lord knows it's not the money. But for us, it's really is to be patient advocates. And I have this burning passion to not want to see people get screwed over. And I feel like the system does that to you. Well, and I know we always say black and brown people, right? But, there's a couple, but white people are impacted by this and they make up half of the people who lose kidney function.
We're all being impacted by it.
We're all being impacted by it.
That was why we brought the genetic testing is because it actually, those 385 tests cover genetic alleles that are
but it's not just the testing, right?
They cover genetic alleles that are prevalent in black people, are prevalent in white people, prevalent in Asian people, prevalent in Hispanic people. So there's, anybody can take the test and figure out what's going on with them if there's a history of this.
Yeah, but see, here's what makes us unique, right? It's not just you take the test and then they follow up and tell you yay or nay, right? Is that you take the test and we tell you how to use that information. It's literally taking that knowledge and information and putting it into action, right? Yeah. It's not enough to hear. And I sound like I Rev Jones. Okay, I heard you preaching on the stream the other day, right? It's not enough that you understand what the word is. You got to do what it says, right? So it's not enough to understand, or you have this. What does that mean, right? You have this situation going on, and this is how you monitor it. Here's the questions that you need to ask your doctor. And if that doctor, you're asking all these questions because we want you moving in the right path. And so you have information that you can act on. You need a kidney transplant? Hey, go back and ask these questions. Get this situation going because we want to figure out what's going on with you specifically. So that'll tell you the action that you need to do. Because right now there's a lot of responsibility on us as patients because healthcare workers get upset at us all the time saying, well, why are you telling them that? Because you aren't. That's why we're telling them how to use this information. That's why we're getting the questions. And our questions, right? We get people 10 questions.
Those are from Cadigo.
Those are not just from Cadigo. We got top-notch scientists. Don Weston, Jeffrey Kopp signed off on these 10 questions. And these are top-notch people in the field. So I know it seems like it's just Kevin and Tiffany here running a little organization. It's not, right? We are the front faces. We recruit
the best.
But Tiffany does a really good job at recruiting top-notch people. And we have top-notch people working with us, right? Same thing with our community health workers. We have top-notch community health workers, the best in my opinion, right?
Yes, we do have the best.
Right?
Martha is amazing.
Like when you think about Rich, I want to give you your flowers, right? That's new saying the kids are saying now. I want to give you your flowers.
Give your flowers while you're here.
You were able to get us in.
It's not new saying that my grandmother would say that. That is like
old saying.
My grandma said that.
Is Reg, you were able to get us in with people of all backgrounds, right? When they see your face, they're like, oh. It makes the entry so much easier to bring the information to people.
And it's so cool because, like I say, when I'm on the road and people come up to me and ask me after my shows about kidney disease, when I don't know something, I always send them right over to you guys and say, I tell you who would know this, who would know how to get you.
And people call me.
I know.
People call me and they're like, bro man told me to call you, and I'm like, that's not his name, but okay. Yeah.
Because you guys open up even though I went through it, but I found out so much that that I can help other people because when I was going through it, I was basically going through it by myself. I didn't, and fortunately enough, I had a good doctor that took the kind of time that you guys like taking with people, and he really walked me through everything. I mean, I went through his own dialysis center, and he was trying to get me out of there quick. He like, hey man, I don't want you to be in here. I put the catheter in your chest because I don't want to put it in your arm because I don't want you to be in here a year. And we got to get this, and that's how I found out about this change program. I didn't even know from my other doctor. So,
you had a really good, you had a good doctor.
I had a good doctor, good team, man. He put the team together. He said, I'm going to send you over to Keck Hospital. He wasn't even at the hospital. He was at another hospital in Long Beach. He's like, I'm going to send you to Keck. They, good people over there. I know those doctors, and, they did everything swiftly, man. I mean, as soon as I went on the registry, I got a kidney. Well, like my wife was a donor, but when I went on the registry, she had to, swap somebody else. It took 15 minutes
to match.
15 minutes. As soon as I went on, 15 minutes, they was like, we already got this, we got a donor, boom, boom, boom. And she give hers and bop and boom. And, so that's some of the kind of things that people should understand about your guys' organization, that you try to make things go smoothly, quickly, and as simple and easy as possible, So when you have somebody like that on your side, on your team, that's the beginning. That's the foundation. You have that good foundation behind you, man. I mean, it'll make it so much better. You don't have to feel like you're alone going through this, man. Because when you're going through it alone and you don't know, and you get the wrong type of people behind you, man, it could be a long, tedious, and very unpleasant experience.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to end, Tiffany, don't you?
Thank you, Reginald.
Thanks, Reg.
Yeah, all right.
And you've been listening to On the Record with Kevin and Tiffany on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, home of conservative talk radio.